Hi there and welcome back to the channel. Today we are picking things up with my 1986 Opel Kadett and there's a lot to do. Now currently I am in the stage of what I would call explorative surgery. That's basically just taking everything apart, taking everything out and seeing what I find so I can get a better idea of what I need to do. I've never stripped a car to this extent before, so it is a bit daunting, but we live and we learn. As you can see, basically the entire interior is strewn about, well, the inside of this car. So on the itinerary for today is to, well, remove what's left of it, except for the door cards. I'm not really worried about those right now. I need to remove the car, but we need to remove those plastic, I don't know what you call them, all the other plastic trimmings and panels. Need to remove the hood latch, and then I can start worrying about rust treatment, getting rid of all of the contact adhesive that glued the old carpet to the floor, and, well, removing and redoing the wiring, because the wiring of this thing is less than trustworthy. And when I say there is much to do, you know that I'm serious, because I made a list. Wait, let me just get it in the sun so I can give you guys and gals a better look at this thing. There you go. So currently there are two basic categories of jobs that need to happen. And get this thing to focus. Big jobs and extra jobs. Obviously a third category is gonna come along, which is going to be shit I forgot about, and a fourth category of shit that I also want to do. Because as most of you who have built cars in the past or have project cars know, a project tends to evolve as you find more stuff to do, more stuff you want to do, you learn new things, and you find more stuff to spend your money on. Now, as you can see right there, I've got lots of mundane stuff like rebuild the engine, install the engine, rebuild the suspension, do brake lines, and then I've got some interesting stuff like aero and custom-made coilovers and a proper big brake kit and an entire fuel system refresh that will incorporate an internal fuel pump in the fuel tank, because quite frankly I'm a little bit sick of how loud the fuel pump in this thing is, or rather how loud the fuel pump in this thing was when it was working. So with all of that out of the way, I can now tackle the job at hand. So for those of you wondering, obviously those are the seats, those are the plastics, dashboard, the HVAC system, and this is the old engine harness. Quite a lot to it, and here is the front body harness. That's getting completely replaced, so I'm not worrying about that, and that I just need to clean and I don't know, sort of repair before I put everything back in again, just so I know that I can trust it and that it is as good as I can get it. And all of that right there will either be getting cleaned, restored, or replaced depending on the condition and obviously the price of actually replacing the parts. Gosh, I do not know why all of the carpet had to be stuck to the floor. If you have ever in your life decided that it was a good idea to use contact adhesive to stick your carpet in your car to the floor, think to yourself, when last have you seen an OEM do that with the entire carpet? I'll answer that for you. Never. Never. OEMs don't do that. And think to yourself, that has to be for a reason. Good grief, because not only is it an absolute pain to uninstall, but it hides a lot, because basically you're leaving that part of the car, usually untreated, covered and hidden for many years, because obviously it'll just be too much work to lift the carpet, and then you find yourself like me, and you just find gobs and gobs of rust. There's rust, there's rust, there's rust, there's some more rust, there's some rust right there, and well, a thin layer of surface rust covers pretty much the entire floor as well. So I am, let's say, more than annoyed, I am distressed. But I am glad to finally have all of the sound system wiring out. That is it, by the way, all of that. And I mean, there was more, but this is all of the sound system wiring that I've just removed. Okay, so I took a small break because the sun shining into the windscreen was absolutely cooking the floor, so it became slightly uncomfortable and very unpleasant to be inside of that thing. So yeah, sit rep. The engine bay is basically completely naked. I just need to remove the shift linkage and the fuel lines and brake lines. Then we move on to this cowling. That needs to be cleaned, and I probably need to remove the wiper assembly. Then I can start work on that. And of course, you just watched me do that. The interior is basically naked as well, with the exception of the handbrake, because as per usual, Opel actively works against intuitive automotive design, so you need to be inside and underneath the car to remove the gear lever. Gear lever? No, the gear lever was there, that's already been removed. The handbrake lever. So I need to start putting together a plan of action for this thing. I've given up on building a nice car because, quite frankly, the money for that is not there. We are doing this on the strictest budget possible given the parts that are going into this thing. Certain sacrifices will be made. For example, paint. The paint that has seen better days will be left as is, and any new parts or panels going onto the exterior, for now at least, initially, will not be painted, or rather repainted. So it's going to be a bit of a hodgepodge on the exterior, and the interior is going to be a bit how you doing as well. Initially I wanted to redo the door cards and the armrests and all that stuff, but quite frankly I need to make budget cuts somewhere if I'm going to build a good solid car, because yes, you can do everything, but given the current budget you can't do everything well. So certain sacrifices need to be made to build the car that I want to build. I want to build a car that will perform, will work, and will be reliable. And quite frankly, I want to build something that will be on par with some properly high-end builds, at least performance-wise. That means custom coilovers, a fancy ECU, hopefully an ECU with built-in wideband, because I want to road trip this thing. I want to be able to drive this thing at a moment's notice to Cape Town and back in relative comfort and with complete ease of mind that I know that this car will make it to Cape Town and bring me back home without breaking or breaking down. So yeah, it is going to be a bit ugly when I'm done, but it is going to be good and solid. And then when it comes to this floor, gosh, this floor is bad. There's lots of rust, much more than I care for, and in certain spots for some reason the paint has ceased to work. Like on that cowl there at the bottom, you can't see it from this angle, the paint's sort of peeling off. It's just bare metal completely exposed. So I need to cover all of that up, obviously after treating all of the rust and getting rid of all of the leftover contact adhesive and all the fuzz that's still stuck to the floor. And then I can paint the floor, make sure the floor is all one color, and obviously all of the rust is sealed up so that it's not only treated, but it won't get worse or come back. And for some reason, a big thing for me with this car at least is, well, I'm afraid to work on it. Mostly because every time I do, it's nothing but bad news and I find a lot of stuff that I do not want to find. But me being used to Toyotas, this car is basically completely alien to work on, because Toyotas are easy. There are screws, there are bolts, and the screws and bolts attach things to things. For example, the bolts on the Hilux, snap your fingers and it's a couple of bolts and the doors just kind of fall off. For some reason, the bolts on the doors on this thing use 3 very specific pins that cannot be reused and need to be destroyed to remove the doors. Which sucks, because removing the doors would have made treating and fixing the floor much easier, because now I need to figure out how to remove the glass and all of this stuff without removing the doors, because obviously when I paint the floor I don't want to get overspray on my windows, because that would suck. I also do need to remove the windows anyways to remove that wretched window tint. I attempted to remove the tint on that window without removing the window, and on camera at least it seems like I was successful, but the adhesive from the tint went and jammed itself into those rubbers and completely jammed, i.e. stuck the window closed. But I'm probably not going to do that, because at some point I need to stop taking things apart, stop searching for problems, finding problems and fixing problems, and instead focus on getting this thing running and driving and going like the clappers. Because as I said, the goal for this thing might not be to build a pretty car, just yet at least, but the goal for this thing is indeed to build a fast and a good car. What was I saying about bad news earlier? I set the camera down for a second just to remove the bonnet release latch that sits right there, and while I was busy with that I noticed that the sound deadening in a few spots was cracking and lifting up, so I stuck a screwdriver in it, and I can no longer feel the tips of my fingers, and this is not good. So it seems what's happened is the weather plugs all failed, and then especially here and here, water came into the weather plugs and then sort of laid dormant in the recessed parts of the floor, and well, then rust happened. And to be quite frank, I was debating hiding this from the video because I'm rather quite very extremely super duper unhappy with the current situation. And luckily I'm also running out of sunlight because I'm not currently in the mood to work on this thing because it just keeps throwing cheap punches at me. But I'm going to tackle the driver's side footwell right now to see what rust I can find, like I did with the I'm going to tackle the passenger side to see what I can find like I did on the driver's side. Luckily it only seems like the rust is in those recessed parts of the floorboard, not the entire floorboard, so I'm only going to focus on those parts. So the current process is going to be basically, does it stick to the floor or does it not stick to the floor? Because if it sticks to the floor, I will assume that there is no rust. If it does not stick to the floor, I will assume that there is rust, and I will then remove the deadening to get and treat the rust. So basically the logic I'm using is, well, the sound deadening is stuck to the metal. If it's come unstuck, that means that the metal to which it used to be stuck has ceased to exist. And if the sound deadening is still stuck, if we reverse that thought of logic, if the sound deadening is still stuck, that means that the metal still exists. That means that there is no rust. At least that's what I'm telling myself. So I wanted to time-lapse that process for all of you, but my phone died, so since I used that to do the time lapses, obviously that could not happen. And I would like to have provided a positive report right now, but the passenger side is much worse than the driver's side. Funny enough, I initially decided to remove the carpet to find and resolve any rust. When I say that I was not ready for what laid in wait, I mean I was not ready for the floor of this car to be basically completely ruined. That's just a whole lot of rust and a hole. A hole. I don't know what to do about that. I chucked my screwdriver out of frustration and it went through the floor. Safe to say this is not good. I was expecting rust, but I was not expecting that. On that somber note, I think I'm going to end this video here. I think the next video you see might just be of me driving the Corolla, because I'm in need of some positivity right now. So I might just go and do that tomorrow. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Certainly hope you enjoyed it more than I did. Let me know what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of, and I will check all of you in the next video. Cheers.